What's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here, and welcome back to my weekly Q&A session where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. Before we get started, if those of you out there who want to jump to the star question of the week, I'm making it easy for you. I'm placing an ad where the question begins, so if you look on the little line at the bottom of the video, you should be able to just jump to it if you want to. But I do encourage you to listen to the whole Q&A, and I hope that you do. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. For those of you who want to know how to submit questions to the Q&A, it's very simple. You can ask them in the comment section below. You can hit me up on Twitter at mythic_tyrant, or if you're a patron donor, we have a special section in our VIP Discord that you can ask your question there as well. We got a lot of great questions this week. I picked 10, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Our first question of the week comes from a gamer named Ryan. Hey, Ryan. And Ryan asks, Tyrant Q&A, have you got any tips for inspiring YouTube creators who want to get more notice and views, subscribers, and just any tip to make better videos? Well, I'm glad you asked. First of all, if you're one of them, congratulations, my friend. I hope that you are enjoying your trip in the YouTube land. I hope that you're prosperous, and I hope that you enjoy what you do. And so that goes to my first tip. First of all, if you want to be a successful YouTuber, you want to make sure that you're passionate about what it is that you're doing. Whatever topic that you cover. So if you're a gamer, make sure that you're really into the games that you're playing, and that you can be that passionate when you reflect that to your audience. If it's doing reviews about TV shows or talking about food or anything, just make sure that it's something that you're passionate about, because your audience will know that. And your audience will respond to that, and they can get passionate about it too and get excited about it. When you're first starting out, don't worry about views and subscribers. That comes later. Basically, you want to come with substance first. You want to have content that means something to you so that they can basically get attached to that. Now, what I would recommend that you do is for videos where you're talking about something or reviewing something or just discussing something in general, I would recommend hashing out a script in advance so that you're basically able to organize your thoughts better. I do that with most of my videos. The only videos that I don't write a script for are the Q&As, because these are authentic. I want to make sure that I'm connecting with you, my community. And the second series that I don't do scripts for are when I do guides, because it's really tough to write a script when you're trying to talk as the video is playing, as you're going through the mission. It's real difficult to do that, so I'm better off just doing what I'm doing as I'm doing it, if that makes sense. But that's what I would do. I would also look into getting a Twitter account, and whenever you upload a new video, make sure that it's on Twitter. Make sure that you follow other people who are also interested in the same thing you're interested in. That's a really good way to build alliances and relationships, and it could really help you with your YouTube career. So that's a great question, Ryan, and I hope that does help you out, my friend. Our next question comes from Errol Savage. And Errol Savage asks, Q&A, do you think 343 will make a different game series after they finally finish Halo? Do you think they will learn their lessons from Halo and then make a really good game? Ouch. Well, from what I understand, 343 was created for the sole purpose of creating Halo content, not just in games, but in movies, in the television series, and in all sorts of different media out there. From what I understand, if Halo dissolves, if it sort of falls to the wayside, then 343 will most likely dissolve and go off the grid as well. I don't know that for sure. It's entirely possible that once Halo has run its course, they may come up with a completely different series altogether that's crafted by Microsoft and designed and developed by 343. I highly doubt it, but I wouldn't count that out completely. So you never know, but I hope that answers your question, Errol. Thank you. Our next question comes from Paneet Kumar, and Paneet asks, Tyrant Q&A, according to you, what makes Noble Team different than Blue Team and Osiris? Let me think about that one. I think Noble Team has souls? Well, in all seriousness, so excluding Master Chief here, it took me a while to actually be able to tell the difference between the different members of Blue Team and Halo 5. None of them really stood out to me. None of them really seemed to have any specific characteristics. The only reason why Linda stood out at all was because she had the same weapon all the time, and it was a sniper rifle. So, but none of them had any real defining characteristics other than accents or the weapons they carried. So they were pretty hollow characters. In terms of Osiris, it was kind of the same thing. I would say Osiris fared a little bit better in that regard just because of Buck and Tanaka, but Vale, not really. When it came to Jameson Locke, it was just him and his dead eyes, and that was about it. It was nothing special about him, nothing that I could justify him being a dynamic character in the game. Whereas if you look at Noble Team, you can describe a Noble Team member without describing the armor that they were wearing or the weapons they usually carried, and pretty much be able to guess every time who that Spartan actually is, or that member of Noble Team. So Noble Team has a lot more heart, and I really enjoyed learning about them in Reach. Even though it wasn't really a character-focused game, the characters still stood out. So that's a great question, Paneet. Thank you, my friend. Our next question comes from Captain Sarowick. And Captain Sarowick asks, what Halo game was the hardest to go through on Mythic, and what was the easiest game to go through on Mythic? Keep up the great content and have a good day. Well, thank you, Captain. I certainly appreciate that. The hardest one, now keep in mind that the Mythic community does not recognize Halo Combat Evolved or Halo 2 or their anniversary editions as having legitimate Mythic difficulties. It's Halo 3 onward. Having said that, my toughest experience with any game on Mythic difficulty for Halo was Halo 3. I think my buddy Olden Aki is probably feeling that right now because he's going through on Halo 3 Mythic himself. By the way, my friend, I saw your post in the Discord. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to respond right away, but congratulations on being able to complete the Covenant mission on Mythic difficulty. I know how tough that mission is. That's amazing. The game in general is very tough on Mythic. There's a ton of enemies, a lot of open spaces. There's a lot of things that can one-shot you. And just in general, keep in mind, it's like, you know, you have a number of enemies, sort of like Halo 5, not quite as many as Halo 5, but you have a lot of enemies, but you don't have the squad system or enhanced Spartan abilities. So it really is tough. It's a very steep learning curve in Halo 3, as opposed to Halo 3 ODST, which I consider to be the easiest, had only 8 missions in the game if you don't count Mombasa Streets. And most of those missions can be done in around 5 minutes, even on Mythic. Halo 3 ODST is a lot more forgiving in that department. The hardest mission in that game is Coastal Highway. That really is the only one that gave me a lot of trouble. Data Hive can be tough as well, but at least it's fair and balanced. The other missions of the game are almost a cakewalk, even on Mythic difficulty. So if you were actually to start doing Mythic for the first time in the Halo series and you want to sort of just get a learning experience out of it, I would highly recommend starting with Halo 3 ODST. Any other game is just moving on up, but Halo 3 to me was definitely the hardest. And for those in the Mythic community that are watching, I'd love to hear your responses in the comment section below. Which Halo game gave you the hardest time on Mythic, and which one was the easiest for you? Our next question comes from Dem Guitar Covers. And Guitar Covers asks, what do you think was the worst decision in the studio in a Halo game, specifically the original trilogy? If I had to make any of the changes for the original trilogy, the only one that I would recommend really is that they would have held off on Halo 2 until the 360 came out and made it the launch game for the 360, very similar to how Halo Combat Evolved was the launch game for the original Xbox. I think if they had had the extra hardware and the extra time, they could have basically molded Halo 2 and Halo 3 together. They could have given it better graphics, more wide open spaces so it wasn't so linear, and more time to polish the enemies so you didn't have the overpowering Jackal snipers that were in the game. So that really would have been the only thing that I would have corrected in that regard. But yeah, if you guys can let me know in the comments below, if you could have made any different decisions for the Bungie era in Halo games, what would they have been? Our next question comes from Mr. No Life. And Mr. No Life asks, how do you feel about aiming down sights in Halo 5? Personally, I don't like it. Love to hear your thoughts. At first, it was something that it took me a while to get used to be honest with you. But as I've been playing the game, as I went through and did my Legendary walkthrough, as I went through and did all the other guides, and then eventually the Mythic walkthrough, it's something that I got used to, and it's something that I began to appreciate. I can understand why legacy Halo fans might not like it as much because it is quite different from what we experienced in previous titles. But one of the reasons why I think it's smart that they stick with it, and again, I know some of you may not like to hear this, is because a lot of future Halo fans are going to be moving over to this series or migrating to the Halo series from different FPS franchises. A lot of people are going to be coming over from Call of Duty, some from Battlefield, maybe some from Titanfall, and even Star Wars Battlefront. A lot of other games out there that already have aiming down sights as a standard feature. So if they're moving to Halo, it doesn't have it at all. They may say, well, maybe this isn't the right first-person shooter for me. But if Halo has it, then they can actually help incorporate members from other gaming communities to help Halo be a more open game or make it more acceptable among different FPS players out there. Again, I understand that there are legacy players out there who hate it, and if you're one of them, I'd like to understand why. You know, I've heard other people explain that it's because it becomes more of a gallery shooter than what Halo used to be, and that's certainly understandable as well, but I'd love to hear specifically what you think of the aiming down sights. If you don't like it, explain to me why. Explain to me what turns you off about the idea and why you would like to go back to the old-fashioned. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Our next question comes from Dale Lee Mixon. So I'm going to take a little side note here before I actually get to his question. Every time I see his name, it makes me think of Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead. And speaking of The Walking Dead, I just want to take a second to say, just remember that the season finale for Season 8 is on Sunday, along with the season premiere of Fear the Walking Dead. After the Season 8 finale of The Walking Dead, I'll be doing a joint review of the season with General Kidd. And I'm really excited about it. He's a fan of the show as well. We're going to be talking about the season. We're also going to be talking about possible spoilers for the future and things that could, or directions the series could go. So I hope that you stay tuned for that. I'm looking forward to it. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well. But to get back to Dale's question, he asked, Q&A, should Reach's Firefight return in future Halo games? I really liked how we were able to customize Firefight to our liking. Absolutely. Even though I was more of a fan of ODST's Firefight personally, what I loved about it is it basically gave you the chance to battle enemies as long as you wanted to in the fashion that you wanted to. What I would love to see going forward is if in future Halo games they incorporated both modes of Firefight, both Warzone, which is exactly what I'm playing now, as well as the classic modes, because there's enjoyment to be had in both of them. I enjoy them both, and I'd love to see them both added. I don't think it would be that difficult to do that. And so hopefully that's something they'll consider in the future. And I'd like for you guys to tell me in the comment section below, just share some of your favorite Firefight memories with me, and just let me know as well, you know, would you be open to having both modes return? And if you had to choose just one, which one would it be? Our next question comes from Luke in Gold. And Luke in Gold asks, Q&A, given how long we have been made to wait for Halo 6 and how frustrated a lot of members of the community have become, including myself, do you think Halo 6 will be a good enough game to satisfy that amount of time, or do you think fans who have waited for almost 4 years will be left disappointed? It was interesting that you asked this, because with the exception of Combat Evolved in Halo 3, pretty much every Halo game that's come out has faced scrutiny when the game was actually released. Halo 2 got a lot of scrutiny when it came out, as well as Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach, and of course the Reclaimer Saga games did as well. I think there's always going to be a group of people who looks back at the previous titles, no matter which title you're talking about, and looks at that as being, you know, the grass is greener type scenario. I think that no matter how well the game is designed, there's always going to be people who lash out against it. Having said that, there were blatant mistakes that they made with Halo 5 that they have taken note of, and they're making sure they don't make those mistakes again in Halo 6. I'm talking about making sure that split screen is included this time, making sure that it's a Master Chief-centric story instead of having, you know, 12 missions out of 15 revolve around another character that we've never heard of before. They are taking steps to make sure that they make a game that is more appealing to not just Halo fans, but also just, you know, video game fans in general. They want to make generations, both new and old, happy with a new title. I'm personally looking forward to it. I think that we're going to get a great game out of it, and you know, my hope, I do have hope for the future when it comes to Halo 6. I think they're going to do a bang-up job, but I'd like to know in the comments below from you guys, what would be a killer for you in Halo 6? What if they did X for Halo 6, what would make you sit there and say, no, this game sucks? I would love to hear those in the comments below. Our next question comes from our very own CFunk99. Always good to see you here, my friend. And CFunk asks, Q&A, if you have the ability to travel back in time with the knowledge of all the bad things that happened with Halo 4, Halo Master Chief Collection, and Halo 5, how would you use that ability to change those games by telling 343 what would happen to them in the future and maybe make them better? This is a tough one for me because, honestly, I don't have the same complaints that most people did about Halo 4 and Halo Master Chief Collection. That's not to say that the people who complain about it don't have legitimate complaints. I just don't have the same ones. It's like with Master Chief Collection, one of the key complaints about that was the whole multiplayer deal. Personally, I play mostly campaign, so I saw it as, you know, having one game with a bunch of Halo games looped into it, so I didn't have to keep going back and forth between different games. I actually enjoy the Master Chief Collection in that regard, but I can certainly see why others are frustrated. With Halo 5, the only thing that I would change with that is something that I've talked about in the past before, and that's just the story and the setup for the story. I've mentioned that basically I think the best way to approach that would have had Halo 5 been two different games. You would have Halo 5 featuring the Master Chief and his missions to try to rescue Dr. Halsey, and then he comes across Cortana later, and then have sort of an expansion for it, which would be Halo 5 Guardians, which would feature Locke and the Guardian scenario, and then finding Blue Team. That's really it right there. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. What advice would you give to 343 Industries if you could, say, 7 years ago? And our final question of the week, our star question, comes from MVP2, also known as DB2 Guide. I remember your old name, my friend. Now, this is kind of an interesting question here, and what he asks is Q&A, do you feel clickbaits are ruining YouTube and the ability for smaller but more dedicated non-clickbaiting YouTubers to spread content? So you're probably looking at the title and you figure I'm gonna start spinning into politics here, which obviously that's not my intention. I try to keep things fairly neutral on this site. I've got a very wide range of community members here, and I respect all of you. And so that's how I'm going to try to keep this answer. And with that, there are two things that I want to talk about. One is clickbait, the other is fake news, because they are one and the same. They are two sides of the same coin. The only difference between them is the platforms that host them. So let's talk about fake news first, because you hear this term a lot, and I feel like it's sort of misunderstood. Some people, to them, fake news is news that they don't agree with. Whereas I view fake news as news that is legitimately using false facts. And they do that by triggering people and causing all sorts of conversations and fights in the comments section, which involve more views, which means they get paid more. And there's also, of course, there's fake news in the sense that you see sponsored articles. And I know all of you have seen these before, where the article says something along the lines of, this person doesn't know why everyone was looking at them, or you won't believe what happened next, or the photographer got more than he bargained for. You've all seen those. And that's basically a modern version of tabloids that you used to find at the checkout line of the supermarket. And that's clickbait. That's legit clickbait. And what that basically is when I say clickbait in that regard, it's they title it something, but the substance of the article or the video or the slideshow or whatever it is does not support the title. Okay? Now with fake news, it basically does the same thing. They have this title that's meant to trigger something in you, some sort of just intense feelings, and they do that because they want you to read it, even though the substance of the article doesn't support it. And there's two things that I'm going to point out right away that are legit fake news. A lot of you at Facebook probably saw this article that said that it was said a while back that if Donald Trump were to ever run for president, he would run as a Republican because he thought Republicans were morons or something along those lines. And quite frankly, he never said that. In fact, John Oliver even brought it up on his show that Trump never said that. So that's fake news. Regardless of what you think of Trump, whether you like him or not, that's fake news. You shouldn't buy it. Don't be mad at the politicians for that. Be mad at the content. Another article I saw a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months now, was Melania Trump orders landmark historic White House lawn tree to be chopped down. Now, if you read the title of that article, you would be mad. Or you might be mad. You might think, wow, what a terrible person. Except that's not what happened. Apparently what happened was some safety inspectors came on the land, and they noted that there was a portion of a tree that was deemed unsafe. And they recommended that portion of the tree be removed, which it was. That's a lot different than what the title was, and the title triggers you. It makes you mad. It's meant to make people who lean to the left angry at the current White House occupiers, and it makes people to the right angry because people are just now targeting, the current president and his wife in ways that, quite frankly, they don't deserve to be. So that's where that sort of comes from. And unfortunately, I feel like the mainstream media, which is where you get fake news from, that's not to say that all mainstream media is fake. They just occasionally do post fake things, or without checking, or basically with the intent of just getting you triggered. And what they basically got that from was social media, because you see a lot of that on social media. That's not to say that social media invented the concept of deceiving its viewers, but it's something they've adapted to because they see it so much. And so let's sort of use that to transition to what actual clickbait is, and is it becoming more of a problem, and what the difference is between clickbait and intelligent marketing. So when you think of clickbait, basically The term clickbait is a deviated form, or basically another term for yellow journalism. And what yellow journalism is just basically trying to grab your attention with falsehoods, with things that aren't true. And we've seen that before. As I mentioned before, the tabloids way back in the day, and they're still around, believe it or not, were an example of this. In terms of modern times, you know, you'll see it a lot too. Now, people have asked, you know, in terms of the question, is clickbait becoming more of an issue? And the answer is, it's not where you think it is. I think in this particular setting right here, he's talking about in just content creators in general, and to that I say no, it isn't. But there are some content creators out there that actually do admit to doing clickbait a lot. Basically, videos that don't measure up to their titles, and it's just meant to enrage or troll their community base. And one of the most prominent people who does this is PewDiePie. Statistically, he's the #1 YouTuber in the world. So this kind of makes you ask, why does he do it? Let me put this in perspective for you. PewDiePie, you know, with a site that has over 50 million subscribers, at least the last time I checked, I'm sure he has more now, because of his YouTube channel, has a net worth of over $80 million. To paint a picture of just how much money that is, if he lived to be 100 and between now and then only spent $1 million, I say only $1 million, spent $1 million a year, every year until then, at 100 years old, he would still be a multi-millionaire. That's insane. And he got that money from YouTube. So my first question is, why does he actually post clickbait? Now, this isn't my perspective of what he posts. He blatantly admitted it. Heck, the video of he's going to delete his channel at 50 million subscribers was clickbait. Because even though technically he deleted a channel, it was strongly implied that he'd be deleting PewDiePie. Not going to lie, kind of wish he did. But you know, that's sort of what it was gearing to. That's clickbait. That's meant to deceive his audience. He is trying to troll his audience. Logan Paul is another person who trolls his audience, and that he thinks it's fun. And to me, that's degrading to the community. When it comes to Halo content creators, which are the people that I'm most closely associated with, obviously, they don't do clickbait. I've seen Halo follower occasionally go that route, but in terms of late night gaming, Hidden Xperia, Actman, they produce quality content. There was this huge discussion that we had on Twitter a few weeks ago. It ended up being hundreds of posts long, ended up going on for days, and basically a few Halo content creators were accused of doing clickbait and not creating content of substance, which is an absolute falsehood. Actman alone has spent 70+ hours editing some of his videos, and it's quality content. He never clickbaits me, as far as I know. And I gotta tell, well, as far as I know, he doesn't clickbait. I very much look forward to his videos when they come out. Same with Late Night Gaming, same with Hidden Xperia, same with General Kids, same with Luke the Notable. They all have excellent first-rate content. The term clickbait, for those of us who are honestly working hard to make videos that you like, to make content that you enjoy, is a bit offensive. Basically, that's saying that we work this hard and to you it's junk. And so you have to be careful when using that term. I think people use the term a little bit more freely than they should. Basically, clickbait is there, it's meant to deceive you. It's meant to not have any substance. It's just meant for views and to troll the fan base. That's it. Now, there is a difference between that and smart marketing. Now, when it comes to attractive titles and attractive thumbnails, that's basically media creation or content creation 101. You do want people to be attracted to that video, but it's up to the content creator to make sure that the substance matches that. And for the most part, people are very good at doing that. People I see are that, regardless if they're in Halo or not, even if it's just something else completely, are dedicated to bringing they're very passionate about what they're talking about, and they want to make sure that everything lines up correctly. And this isn't anything new. You can't fault YouTubers for wanting to make better titles and better thumbnails, because people are more likely to click on them, and that's what they want. That doesn't mean they're going to deceive you. And you see this even back in the days before the internet was mainstream, before you saw trailers online for movies and TV shows. When you went to the movie theater, right, back in the 90s, Basically, I've said that word too many times in this one. I'll try not to use it anymore. But you go to the movie theater, and how would you know a new movie's coming out that you might want to see? Usually comes in one of three ways. One, you see a trailer for it in the theater. Two, you see a trailer for it on TV, where, again, they show you the best parts of the movie or really good parts of the movie to make you want to go there. Or three, you would see the movie poster outside of the theater. And it's meant to be, it's meant to look cool. It's meant to attract your attention. That's not to say that they're trying to deceive you. They're just trying to get you to watch the movie. The movie can still be fantastic. I still remember seeing the Independence Day poster and seeing that giant ship above New York City and then firing the beam at the Empire State Building. That particular scene, or at least how it was depicted in the poster, was not in the film. Yes, they did blow up the Empire State Building in the movie, but not the way the poster showed it. But that was okay, because the movie still followed up. Independence Day is one of my favorite films of all time. And I thought the movie posters, even if those scenes weren't directly in the film, it still painted a very accurate picture as to what the film was about. And pretty much most movies do that. So, and that's how it sort of translates to YouTube as well. We want our titles to intrigue you. We want our thumbnails to attract you. And it helps us get more views. It helps us get more conversation started in the comment section. It helps us build our communities. And it helps us get our message across easier. We're not trying to bait you into anything. We just want to make sure that you are more inclined to click on those videos. I'll give you an example just on my channel. This hasn't happened in a long time, but sometime middle of last year, early last year, people got mad at me because of how I would title these Q&A sessions. I had one particular guy who was mad because I would title it, and he said, "You think you're so slick just tagging on Tyrant's Halo Q&A at the end like no one will see it?" I'm like, I'm sorry if you can't read a full phrase without drifting off. But no, it's not meant to deceive you. That's why I have the terminology Tyrant's Halo Q&A in there, so that you know it's going to be a topic of various discussions. Now, the way I've always titled my Q&As, very similar to the way Late Night Gaming does his, is I have a star question of the week, and I put that in the title so that you have an idea of what's going to be discussed in the video. And I always make sure I put Tyrant's Halo Q&A to make sure you know that's not going to be the only thing that's discussed. Now, one thing that I also make sure that I do in all these videos, in terms of the title and the substance, is the star Q&A question is always the last question. Actually, this deviates from what Late Night Gaming does, because his is usually somewhere in the middle. Mine's always at the end. And one thing that I've started doing in more recent weeks is actually placing an ad in the right before the star question of the week. So if you want to skip to it, it's very visible to you. You can do exactly that. But I always hope that you guys are willing to watch the whole Q&A as well. But it's not meant to deceive anybody. It's simply meant to give you an idea of what's coming. It's meant to excite you some, so that you feel excited to click on the video. And for the most part, when I always see the likes versus dislikes, I usually don't see very many dislikes, which means people watch the video and they're happy they watched it. They feel happy they clicked on it, which means it was something that was worth their time, which tells me that's not clickbait. Of course, once again, I never do any of these with the intent to deceive you. It's the intent to intrigue you. It's the intent to promote discussion and just generate lots of fun Halo conversation and lots of game conversation. And that's what most of these content creators want to do. They just want to share their passion with you, and they want to see what your response is for it. It's not meant to deceive you. So to go back again, I know that was a bit long-winded, to the question as a whole, do I feel like clickbaits are ruining YouTube? The answer is no. I don't think clickbaits are ruining YouTube. I think mainstream media is doing more damage than anything else. And for the most part, I think content creators that are very passionate about their work don't have to worry about the clickbait stuff. The clickbait stuff, eventually, YouTube will spot it, and or the community members of those communities will catch it and move on to other things. There's a lot of great content creators out there. There's one that I follow, Clayton Fiorti, who's a big Jurassic franchise fan. And so he was one of my inspirations behind doing the Dinofight series, and I got to watch his channel grow up. He started out with like 9,000 subscribers when I first came across him, and he soared past me. He's like at 60,000 subscribers now. It's insane. I'm so proud of him, and it's because he's passionate about his work. And I think anyone who is willing to work hard enough and be dedicated enough and is truly passionate about their work, and this sort of ties into the first question as well, can make it in the world of YouTube. So I hope that inspired you guys a little bit. I hope that provided a little bit of insight into these scenarios, and I'm really curious as to what you think about it. Do you agree with anything I said? What are your own personal opinions? I'd love to hear them in the comment section below, or feel free to hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below, and I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your day, your valuable time, to sit down with me and watch this video. I really enjoy doing these Q&As. I really am glad, I'm lucky to have you as a community, and I hope that you're happy that you got to see this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Now, if you did, I hope you'll consider subscribing for more great content right here on mythictyrant.com. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. I hope all of you have an absolutely wonderful weekend. I'll catch you all right back here next time, and as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.